Leng Xian lay in the blood-colored sand, his eyes fixed on Loki who was gradually recovering in the sky, his face as pale as a dead man. He took a deep breath, spat forcefully toward the sky and sneered. Being held up for so long by a mere mortal like me, you, the god of mischief, are nothing special after all. Loki's hands had recovered, and upon hearing these words, his face visibly turned ice cold. He floated in the air with his upper body, casually picked up the heavy sniper rifle from the ground with his right hand, and pointed the black muzzle at Leng Xian who lay in the pool of blood, speaking calmly. The last bullet, I'll save it for you. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, from the distant desert, black and white energies suddenly intertwined and shot up into the clouds. A figure stood at the center of the black and white energies, raised a hand and made a grasping gesture in the air toward this direction. All weapons disarm. Crack. The heavy sniper rifle in Loki's hand suddenly began to shake violently, its internal components automatically twisting, and a dark golden bullet abruptly ejected from the loading chamber. With the bullet ejected, even though Loki pulled the trigger, only a dull empty click sound came from the chamber. Loki frowned and looked toward the direction where the black and white energies were soaring. That is. Loki narrowed his eyes, seemingly pondering something. At that moment, 4 figures fell from the sky like meteors, crashing down around Loki with a thunderous impact. They stood at the 4 cardinal directions of east, south, west, and north. Amid the swirling yellow sand, 4 pale masks, one crying, one smiling, one angry, one sorrowful, emitted an eerie cold light under the sun. The 4 special envoys of the Shangijiji. Kill. The 4 envoys simultaneously let out a low chant, for forbidden domains opened, slashing toward Loki who had only recovered half of his body from different directions. Loki snorted coldly, countless threads of trickery spreading out, directly engaging in battle with the 4 envoys. Deafening explosions immediately covered the entire stone city. The 4 special envoys of Shangijiji together could match a human at the ceiling level. With their combined attack, holding back a Loki who had only recovered half his body wasn't a difficult task. Seeing these figures, Leng Xian let out a long breath, fell back onto the blood-colored sand, slowly closed his eyes and revealed a relieved smile. No matter what, his mission was accomplished. Hey, wake up. You can't die yet. A voice called Leng Xian's drifting consciousness back. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Chao Yuan crouching beside him, carrying him on his back, running quickly away from the battlefield. It's you, Leng Xian murmured weakly. There are many powerful healers in Shangijiji, don't worry, you won't die. Chao Yuan reassured him while sprinting to the Shangijiji members at the edge of the city. Several figures dressed in white immediately rushed over and began to stop Leng Xian's bleeding and treat his wounds. Watching these people busy saving him, Leng Xian's lips curled into a smile. Thank you. No need for thanks, you're Seven Knights' friend. If we couldn't save you, 7 knights would fight us to the death, Bailey Pang Pang chuckled. Besides, to be able to hold back Loki for so long with a mortal body. I, Bailey Pang Pang, am impressed. Chao Yuan gazed at the distant battlefield where Loki and the 4 envoys were fighting, his expression somewhat worried. Can those 4 handle it? Should we go help? I'll go. A voice came from above. Everyone looked up to see Yin Qingyu wearing a blood-stained white robe, carrying a black coffin on his back, walking toward them while treading on nothingness. He calmly observed the distant battlefield, took off the black coffin from his back, placed it beside Bailey Pang Pang and the others and said seriously, Old Chao's Black King is already on the edge of losing control, and Pang Pang, your level isn't high enough, so just stay here and watch. Take care of Zhang Air for me, I'll go help them. Before Bailey Pang Pang could say anything more, and Qingyu's figure flickered and transformed into a streak of light rushing toward the distant battlefield. He said my level isn't high enough. Bailey Pang Pang watched the direction of his departure and muttered, just wait, one day he'll regret it. Surging flames continuously erupted from the center of the stone city, threads of trickery interweaving. Loki's figure instantly vanished within the flames. When he reappeared, he was already standing behind the smiling-faced envoy, his pale hand lightly patting the envoy's back, causing a mist of blood to explode instantly. The smiling-faced envoy groaned and was sent flying backward. Ghost binding. And Qingyu, who had arrived treading on air, formed a seal with his hands and slowly uttered 2 words. The next moment, Ghostly winds howled, countless fierce ghosts materialized around Loki, frantically gnawing at his body. Soul and body intertwined and overlapped, like a large net firmly restraining him in place. Loki wasn't in a hurry to break free. He looked up at Enchingyu's gray eyes, raised an eyebrow, seemingly somewhat surprised. Your aura. Before he could finish, two envoys appeared out of thin air at his side. A light blue crystal long blade and a crimson light tore through the yellow sandstorm, attacking his neck and heart respectively. With just you people you can't defeat me, Loki spoke contemptuously upon seeing this. Better send Xiaonan instead. A trick flashed in front of Loki, his figure twisted strangely, instantly being replaced by a man wearing an angry-faced mask, while his true form flashed to the sky several kilometers away. Seeing this, the two envoys immediately changed the trajectory of their weapons, slashing past the vital points of the angry-faced envoy, their backs soaked with cold sweat. Position swap? Loki can use tricks to continuously deceive history and rewrite reality. With just a few of us humans who haven't reached the ceiling level, we simply can't win like this. Enchinyu thought to himself. Just then, as if sensing something, he was about to take action when a dark shadow slowly materialized behind him. His pupils contracted and he lunged forward. The sharp blade tip slashed across his back, easily tearing open a bloody wound. Had his speed been any slower, what would have been cut off might have been his head. Enchinyu looked back to see another Loki standing behind him, holding a short knife and smirking. At that moment, Enchinyu felt a blur before his eyes, and the wound on his back mysteriously disappeared. And beside him, a figure had inexplicably appeared. Be careful, the Loki in the sky is fake, it's his visual trick. Xiaonan stared intently at the knife-wielding Loki and calmly said, that knife is coated with deadly poison. I used a trick to rewrite the history of your injury, so you're fine for now. Enchinyu hesitated for a moment. Actually, even if the knife is poisoned, I'm not afraid. Are you confident? Xiaonan looked at the distant Loki and nodded. Yes. To deal with Loki, the most troublesome thing is that he can use trickery to constantly rewrite history and turn the tide of battle. With just us few people trying to deplete his divine power so he can't use trickery anymore is basically impossible. So there's only one method left. Use trickery to change back the history I've rewritten? Loki, standing in midair, guessed the method Xiaonan was referring to and sneered. Xiaonan, I am the god of trickery while you are merely my proxy. Even if you push the god ruins to its limit, how far back in history can you rewrite? 10 seconds? 20 seconds? Do you think you can be faster than me? Xiaonan didn't respond. She simply opened her mouth silently, her tongue sliding between her teeth, and a silver needle automatically ejected. Ghost God Inducer? Enchinyu frowned upon seeing this. To defeat Loki, I must elevate my trickery to a level close to his. This is the only way. Xiaonan replied calmly, as if she had anticipated this situation long ago. Xiaonan bit down and the silver needle plunged into her flesh. The next moment, her realm began to rise at a visibly rapid pace. As her mental power erupted, Xiaonan instantly had 1 foot across the human ceiling barrier, just a hairline away from the human peak. But this hairline stopped Xiaonan's advance. The human ceiling is a threshold. Having 1 foot across this threshold is the limit that a normal human can reach using the Ghost God Inducer. Even Lin Chia could only barely cross this threshold with the additional support of Soul Bearing or the Holy Grail, Wish. But to contend with Loki, this alone was not enough. Xiaonan stood in the raging wind of mental power, her black hair dancing in the gale. She took a deep breath and shouted behind her. Leng Xian. Leng Xian, who was being treated by Upper Evil Association members, broke free from their hands without hesitation, gritting his teeth and enduring the pain as he sprinted towards Xiaonan's position. With his last trembling arm, he took out an emblem from his chest and threw it forcefully towards Xiaonan. Snap! Xiaonan caught the emblem like lightning, and a silver needle ejected from the side of the emblem, piercing into her skin. The second Ghost God Inducer. Black threads began weaving around Xiaonan, intertwining into a trickery that started deceiving her body. The Ghost God Inducer can only be used once in a person's lifetime. This is because it works by using a secret drug to temporarily overdraw all of a person's potential in a short time, achieving the result of crossing realms. For ordinary people, even if they inserted a second ghost god inducer during the effective period of the first one, it wouldn't increase their realm further because their potential had already been completely exhausted by the first ghost god inducer. A depleted body, no matter how much it's overdrawn, cannot possibly mobilize more potential. But Si Xiaonan was an exception. She could use trickery to deceive her own body, making the lost potential temporarily return, allowing it to be stimulated a second time for a doubled effect. The power of two ghost god inducers doubly overdrew all of Si Xiaonan's vitality and potential. Her surging mental power violently broke through that threshold, completely stepping into the human sealing realm and soaring straight to the peak. Even among the many human sealing experts alive today, only Guan Zai and Yuzuri Tekishira were at this level. Sensing the terrifying aura from Si Xiaonan, Loki's brow slightly furrowed. He snorted coldly and countless threads appeared around him, quickly weaving into trickery. But in the next moment, similar black threads also wove into the same trickery around Si Xiaonan. Boom! A strange muffled sound rippled out from the void between them, and gusts of wind swept through the stone city. Neither of them moved, but in the history that no one could witness, they had already engaged in battle through trickery from a distance. Si Xiaonan in midair couldn't help taking half a step back, a trace of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth, but a smile appeared on her face. She had succeeded. Just now, Loki had tried to use trickery to deceive history, making Si Xiaonan's breakthrough with the ghost god inducer fail. If that happened, the current Si Xiaonan at the peak of the human ceiling would cease to exist. But with Si Xiaonan's trickery intervention, she twisted the history that Loki was about to divert back to its original course. Although it was extremely difficult for Si Xiaonan to achieve this, it meant she could restrict Loki's most troublesome ability. Let's see how long you can maintain this state. Loki's expression was extremely ugly. Since becoming the god of trickery, this was the first time he had been countered before his divine power was exhausted, and by his own proxy no less. This was what Si Xiaonan had always believed. Below the supreme, only trickery can kill trickery. Si Xiaonan's face was somewhat pale. She lowered her head, coughed up 2 mouthfuls of blood and chuckled lightly. To kill you, this is enough. Before her words faded, 3 figures simultaneously charged toward Loki in the sky. The 2 Upper Evil Association emissaries rushed out like lightning from left and right, their mental power surging like waves. Above Loki, Qingyu, wearing a blood-stained white robe, slowly spread his arms, his glasses reflecting the pale sunlight, cold and mysterious. Yin thunder, divine fire, soul poison everywhere. Crack. The moment Qinyu's words fell, a black thunderbolt instantly penetrated the thick cloud layer, and crimson fire snakes emerged from nothingness, coiling around the Yin thunder, transforming into a thunder and fire dragon that let out a mountain-shattering roar as it lunged toward Loki below. The full-force attacks from the other 2 emissaries also simultaneously engulfed Loki. Dazzling flames burst open in mid-air, and thunderous roars echoed within the human circle. At the same time, Si Xiaonan standing not far away flashed with the light of trickery, her form distorting to become Loki for an instant before changing back to herself. Half of her body was charred black, her face extremely pale as she spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated several steps. She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and coldly gazed at the center of the explosion. Just now, Loki had tried to use trickery to switch places with her, but she had switched back with her pre-prepared trickery. Even so, she was injured in that explosion. From within the raging flames, a figure carrying terrifying divine power suddenly broke through the thick smoke and flew toward Si Xiaonan. Loki's elegant clerical robe was burned to charred pieces, but his body bore no serious injuries. After all, he had a divine body and the combined attack from Qingyu and the others had limited effect on him. But Si Xiaonan's 2 consecutive interruptions of his trickery had enraged him beyond measure. No matter what, he had to kill Si Xiaonan first. Seeing Loki break through the blockade and charge towards Si Xiaonan without regard for anything else, Leng Xian, standing in the stone city, narrowed his eyes. Gritting his teeth, he used his only remaining arm to load the last bullet into the heavy sniper rifle with lightning speed, forcefully hoisting the gun up and shouting toward the sky. Xiaonan. Si Xiaonan stared intently at the rapidly approaching Loki, her pale face completely drained of color. Even though she now possessed the pinnacle of human potential, this divine realm wouldn't give her much direct combat power. In fact, after interrupting Loki's tricks twice in succession, she was already extremely weak. Escaping using tricks was impossible. She could use tricks to counter Loki, but naturally Loki could also use tricks to counter her. Even if she tried to escape from Loki using tricks, Loki would use his own tricks to alter history and nullify her escape. Once Loki was determined to kill her, her human body would be no match for Loki's divine form. Within 10 seconds she would be reduced to a bloody mist by Loki's physical strength. Just then Leng Xian's shout reached Si Xiaonan's ears. Years of tacit understanding made Si Xiaonan leap sideways with all her might without a second thought. Bang! The thunderous gunshot echoed through the clouds. The next moment, a bullet grazed Si Xiaonan's arm and whistled through space, flashing toward Loki's face. Loki's pupils contracted sharply. This was Leng Xian's last bullet. After this shot was fired, the dark red sniper rifle that Leng Xian had been gritting his teeth to hold up suddenly shattered. Countless weapon parts, comparable to divine artifacts, scattered in all directions like raindrops. Leng Xian was blasted back dozens of meters by the terrifying aftershock, crashing into a thick stone wall, with blood spreading from various parts of his body. He struggled to open his eyes, looking in the direction where the bullet had gone. The high-speed rotating bullet tore the surrounding space into a vortex, violently blasting a large hole in Loki's body. His arms were pulverized in the fractured space, his upper body completely separated from his lower body, and his forward momentum suddenly halted. In that instant, an intense sense of mortal danger surged through his mind. Si Xiaonan's shadow moved. A wisp of smoke shot out from her shadow like something formless, and within a breath, it sketched the outline of a man holding a short knife in midair. The extreme killing intent and the sharp blade light transformed into a white line cutting through heaven and earth, slicing open Loki's neck. The god of assassins, number 27. To fulfill his promise, number 27 had infiltrated Si Xiaonan's shadow from Lin Chia's side at the Miracle Square last night. From Loki fooling Thor and others at Miracle Square, to the true and false stand situation at the Human Circle Church, to the battle of tricks just now. No matter how dire the situation became, number 27 never made a move, not even revealing a trace of his presence. He had failed once before. He knew how difficult Loki was to deal with, so he was waiting for an opportunity. An opportunity for a fatal strike. He was like a hunter lurking in the winter snow, completely blending with the environment, until the prey unwittingly exposed its fatal weakness. And so the hunter struck. This blade light, like tearing through a piece of white paper, lightly separated Loki's head from his torso. Loki stared in shock as the world turned upside down before his eyes. When his peripheral vision caught his half-body still suspended in the air and the fleeting smoky shadow, he finally understood what had happened. He gritted his teeth and black threads once again condensed into a trick, but moments later the trick automatically collapsed. Blood splattered in the wind and vitality withered in the smoke. History had not been altered by him. His last survival trump card had been interrupted by Si Xiaonan again. Unprecedented rage surged through Loki's heart. The head tossed in the air stared fixedly at Si Xiaonan and roared. Si Xiaonan, you think killing me will give you freedom? You are my servant. Your soul is bound to mine. If I die, you won't survive either. Si Xiaonan, who had interrupted Loki's trick, staggered back several steps, blood flowing from her 7 orifices. Looking at the enraged head in the sky, her blood-covered face suddenly broke into a smile. Survive? From the moment I left Songnan, Si Xiaonan was already dead. Loki, you think I'm standing here risking my life for freedom? Let me tell you. Loki. I did all this just to use my life to kill you, you son of a bitch god of mischief. You destroyed our Songnan. This old lady is taking you down with her. Si Xiaonan almost howled these words, her eyes completely red. In her frail body, it was as if a volcano suppressed for years had suddenly erupted. Behind Loki's spinning head in midair, number 27, cloaked and holding a short knife, appeared again. Under his wide black hood, he looked down at Loki with indifferent eyes, raising his short knife once more. one slash after another, turning Loki's head into a mist of fragments. The sharp blade light almost engulfed the 100 meters in front of him, including Loki's limbs that had been shattered by the bullet, grinding everything into tiny pieces. Only this way could number 27 ensure that Loki had no possibility of resurrection. No matter how many tricks you have, no matter how strong your survival ability, even if you could regenerate from a drop of blood, if I cut you until not even a drop remains, how could you possibly live? As a dim cloud of blood dispersed into the yellow sand, the entire stone city fell into dead silence. Loki was dead. Unable to change history with tricks, or resurrect through substitution, this god who was said to be the hardest to kill below the Supreme, finally died in the human circle. Damn, killing Loki was really not easy. Bailey Pang Pang, who had witnessed the entire process from the side, couldn't help but speak up. That was the god of mischief after all, Chao Yuan slowly said. To be able to force a major god into such a situation through calculation, Si Xiaonan is definitely the first person in history to do so. Yes, worthy of someone from Tsongnan. Where is she? Bailey Pang Pang looked around and found that Si Xiaonan had disappeared without a trace. Chao Yuan raised an eyebrow, then a puzzled expression appeared on his face. Strange, Leng Xian is gone too. Asgard. In the tall forest, a figure riding an electric scooter moved through, quickly arriving at an ancient temple. This temple was the passage between Asgard and the human circle. Lu Wuwei looked down at the order in his hand and thoughtfully said, "So Loki was hiding in the human circle? No wonder I couldn't find him. But this door seems to be closed." Lu Wuwei got off his scooter and walked around the temple. Just as he was about to find a way to blast open the passage to the human circle, a black light flashed from deep within the temple, followed by the sound of shattering. The passage to the human circle broke automatically. Lu Wuwei raised his eyebrows in surprise. Suddenly, as if sensing something, he quickly looked down at the order in his hand. In the recipient column, the characters for Loki that had been written there began to gradually fade, and finally disappeared completely. Loki is dead? Lu Wuwei's eyes widened. Land of Giants. Snow Mountain. The white mountain peaks resembled giant pillars, piercing into the dim, gray sky. Drifting snowflakes accompanied by fierce winds raged across the heavens and earth. This was the northernmost border of the Land of Giants, and also the most peripheral region of all Asgard. Palm-sized snowflakes swirled down from the sky, burying all sounds. In the deathly silent snowfield, two figures suddenly materialized from the dissipating black lines. Leng Xian staggered forward half a step, his legs sinking knee-deep into the thick snow. He looked around in confusion, his gaze falling on a black-haired girl not far away, collapsed in the snow, struggling to get up. Xiaonan. Leng Xian pulled his legs free and walked to the blood-covered Si Xiaonan's side, helping her up from the snow. Xiaonan, are you all right? I'm fine. Si Xiaonan shook her pale face, pointing at her palm, and smiled weakly. Back in Kunlun Void, the Queen Mother gave me a thread of true qi to sustain my remnant soul. Even though Loki's soul has been scattered, my soul won't immediately perish. With this thread of true qi, my soul can still last for another half hour. This thread of true qi was originally meant to prevent Loki from directly using the soul contract to erase my life. But now Loki is dead. I want to use this last half hour to do something else. Leng Xian seemed to realize something and froze in place. Go home. Si Xiaonan looked into his eyes and smiled weakly. She smiled happily like a child, raising her scarred hand to point at some direction in the distance. Leng Xian, Loki is dead. We're free. We can finally return to Tsongnan. Before she could finish her last sentence, two hot tears rolled down Si Xiaonan's smiling cheeks and fell onto the snow. She stood there, light flowing in her eyes. Tsongnan, Leng Xian murmured. He quickly came to his senses and looked at Si Xiaonan before him, whose vitality was gradually fading, his eyes filled with complexity. He could feel how terrible Si Xiaonan's physical condition was. With the Queen Mother's true qi, it could indeed slow down the dispersal of her soul, but her physical body was about to give out. Two ghost god inducers had completely exhausted her body. The double side effects would gradually extract all the vitality from her body. Her time was probably running out. Leng Xian remained silent for a moment, then spoke gently amid the deathly quiet falling snow. All right, let's go home. Hearing this answer, Si Xiaonan's smile grew more radiant, her clean eyes slightly curved. This was the beauty and joy that any girl her age in the bloom of youth should experience. Si Xiaonan grabbed Leng Xian's wrist, and strands of trickery threads wove around them. In the blink of an eye, their figures vanished without a trace. When Leng Xian opened his eyes again, they were standing amidst the ruins of Western-style houses. Hazy mist surrounded them. The dim sunlight penetrated through the clouds and mist, as if sprinkling countless gray lead particles, making the surrounding buildings look pale and desolate. This was not Great Xia. Cough, cough, cough. Just as Leng Xian was about to speak, Si Xiaonan beside him began to cough violently. Si Xiaonan bent over in pain, black blood continuously coughing up from her throat. Her once clear tears had been stained with blood, dyeing her eyes red. Xiaonan. Leng Xian's eyes narrowed. I'm fine. Si Xiaonan's red eyes were somewhat unfocused. She looked at the ground beneath her feet, her voice so faint it seemed like she was mumbling to herself. Loki is dead. The world's only law of trickery is continuously pouring into my body. If I want, I can weave trickery and directly teleport near Great Xia. I'm just a bit tired. Give me a little more time. I can definitely. Before Leng Xian could reach out to help her up, countless black threads formed around Si Xiaonan, and their figures disappeared again. After several consecutive repetitions, Leng Xian witnessed them travel from the land of giants in Asgard to the European continent in the real world, to a lonely island in the ocean, and then to an unknown lost city. Each time she used trickery, Si Xiaonan would cough up large amounts of black blood, and her clear eyes became increasingly clouded. Despite this, she didn't utter a word of complaint, like a stubborn child desperately trying to find the way home. Leng Xian also remained silent. He just quietly gritted his teeth until traces of blood seeped from the corners of his mouth. His bloodshot eyes were filled with heartache and helplessness. He wouldn't persuade Si Xiaonan to give up because he knew this was her final wish. When their figures appeared again in a snow-covered area shrouded in mist, the black trickery threads dispersed, and a dull thud came from Leng Xian's side. Si Xiaonan had collapsed. In the blizzard, Leng Xian used his only remaining arm to lift her with difficulty. Leng Xian. I think I'm going blind, Si Xiaonan murmured faintly, her deep red eyes having completely lost focus. Can you carry me home on your back? The double side effects of the ghost god inducers began to extract all the vitality from her body bit by bit. After her limbs lost the strength to move, her vision began to fade. In her world, apart from the endless redness before her eyes, there was only Leng Xian's heavy breathing. He was silent for a moment. All right. Si Xiaonan felt a sudden spinning sensation, and then she was on a solid back with an arm supporting her body, swaying back and forth as they moved forward. Si Xiaonan's hands were around Leng Xian's neck, and she suddenly felt a gentle, sticky liquid slowly flowing. Leng Xian, you're hurt. Si Xiaonan's increasingly confused consciousness suddenly cleared and she spoke softly. Just a scratch, nothing serious, Leng Xian said calmly. Si Xiaonan's pale lips pressed together slightly. She remained silent for a long time, then one hand tremblingly reached into her bosom, taking out a flawlessly white round pill, and held it to Leng Xian's mouth. Open your mouth. The immortality pill? Leng Xian's voice paused. Didn't you say you wanted to return this to Great Xia? I changed my mind. Si Xiaonan smiled weakly. Since this pill has been created, it's meant to be consumed by someone. If that's the case, why can't it be you? Although you don't have a forbidden domain or a divine domain, I believe you are the most suitable person in the world for this pill. What about you? You were the one who retrieved this pill and you killed Loki. Why can't you take it? Si Xiaonan was silent for a moment, then spoke bitterly. I don't deserve it. Why? Because you betrayed Great Xia? Or because you're the agent of trickery? Leng Xian firmly shook his head. Xiaonan, I really don't need this pill, you should. Open your mouth. Si Xiaonan raised her voice and repeated, her tone extremely serious. Don't make me use my last strength on arguing. I won't argue with you, Leng Xian. Now I'm half a god of trickery. You can't beat me. Hearing Si Xiaonan's tone that brooked no refusal, Cold Pavilion didn't say anything more. He remained silent for a moment, and under the prying of Si Xiaonan's fingertips, he slowly opened his mouth. Si Xiaonan placed the pill into Cold Pavilion's mouth. Eat it. I've eaten it, Though I can't see, I'm not stupid, Si Xiaonan sighed helplessly. Those are all tricks I've used before. How could you fool me? Chew it up and swallow it. Cold Pavilion paused for a moment, then a crunching sound of chewing the pill came from near Si Xiaonan's ear. Hearing this crisp sound, a slight smile appeared on Si Xiaonan's blind face. Like a satisfied child, her whole body relaxed, her complexion darkening slightly again. How is it? Does the immortality pill taste good? Si Xiaonan asked curiously. Not good, a bit astringent. Cold Pavilion paused. However, my wounds seem to be healing already. Of course, this is the immortality pill. Once you take it, no matter how severe your injuries, they'll heal instantly. The concept of death is erased and your lifespan becomes endless. Si Xiaonan smiled playfully, speaking weakly. Congratulations, Cold Pavilion, from now on you'll truly live as long as the southern mountains. Cold Pavilion's posture gradually straightened and his pace quickened. He carried Si Xiaonan on his back, striding forward. Cold Pavilion, where are we now? After a long while, Si Xiaonan asked softly. We've crossed the northern border and reached the Changbai mountain range. Is it cold in the north? I can't feel the temperature anymore. It's a bit cold, but for the north, this temperature is considered warm. The north? That must be quite far from Tsongnan, right? Still some distance, but I'll go hijack a plane and we'll get there quickly. Hearing Cold Pavilion's serious tone, Si Xiaonan burst into laughter, followed immediately by violent coughing, one fit after another as if she might cough up her entire lung. Black blood instantly stained Cold Pavilion's back. I'm already half a god of trickery. What kind of trickery god would steal planes from ordinary people? Cough cough. I'll try harder, we'll be home soon. Si Xiaonan's voice gradually weakened. At the same time, black threads extended from her body, weaving together to form a mysterious mark, and their figures instantly disappeared. With her life force depleted and forcibly using trickery, Si Xiaonan felt as if her mind had been struck hard with a hammer, instantly becoming fuzzy. When she finally struggled to regain her thoughts, her head felt sticky. She reached up to wipe her face and found her hand covered in fresh blood. Her time was running out. Bang! A mist of blood suddenly burst from Si Xiaonan's back, transforming into strands of white threads that dissipated in the air. She had been continuously absorbing the divine void of the trickery law, breaking through a certain threshold. Her realm uncontrollably surpassed human limits, beginning to advance to a higher level. She was beginning to transform into the Tao. Her depleted life force was dry, her soul forcibly sustained by Queen Mother of the West's true energy was gradually collapsing, and her physical body was beginning to transform into the Tao. The three overlapped, causing unprecedented pain that tormented Si Xiaonan's body and soul. Yet even so, a thread of will forcibly maintained her consciousness. Cold Pavilion, Si Xiaonan spoke with a breath as thin as a thread. Have we reached Tsongnan yet? We have. Cold Pavilion's voice faintly reached Si Xiaonan's ears. She had to listen carefully to hear what he was saying. Sight, smell, touch, taste, hearing, all were gradually erased as her life force disappeared. Her consciousness was in chaos, with only a final trace of obsession keeping her alive. Where are we? South of Peace Bridge, near that roasted chestnut shop you love so much. Can you smell the aroma of the roasted chestnuts? I think I can, Si Xiaonan murmured. Across the street is our office, the door is still open. Looks like someone from Squad 136 is still stationed here. I wonder who? Yes, it could also be new recruits who graduated in the last 2 years. I wonder if they'll recognize us, Cold Pavilion said, chattering as he walked. The weather in Tsongnan is very nice today, very refreshing. The road is a bit crowded. Let's cross the street. Little South, did you hear the bell when the door opened? This place hasn't changed at all since we left. The basement door is open, someone's down there. Let's go down and see. Cold Pavilion's voice seemed to grow more distant. Si Xiaonan lay quietly on his back, her gray-black face wearing a faint smile. She seemed to have already seen that after entering the basement, there would be those familiar faces waiting for the return of their former team's darling. Her consciousness faded bit by bit, gradually losing all perception. Vaguely, she felt her mouth being pried open by something warm, and then something rolled down her throat into her stomach. Mist churned and snow and wind raged. On the desolate, icy cliff, Cold Pavilion slowly released Si Xiaonan from his arms, carefully placing her on the snow. He stood up shakily. Under the black cloak, countless fragments of exploded divine weapons were embedded in horrifying wounds. Scarlet blood flowed along his skin, quickly dyeing the snow red. He spat out several sobering pills hidden in his mouth, and a smile appeared on his pale lips. He looked tenderly at Si Xiaonan in the snow, murmuring, "The god of trickery isn't so hard to deceive after all." A faint light gradually lit up from Si Xiaonan's abdomen, mysterious halos covering every corner of her body. Her body, which had been infinitely close to death, began to regain vitality at an astonishing speed. Depleted life force surged again, her gradually shattered soul rapidly repaired, and her physical body, which had been dispersing due to transformation into the Tao, reformed. Between heaven and earth, invisible laws frantically poured into her body. Her aura exploded, whirling the surrounding snow into a terrifying vortex that extended bit by bit toward the sky. The second person in human history to become a god was about to emerge. Cold Pavilion stood in the center of the blizzard in front of Si Xiaonan. Covered in blood, he seemed to hold up the entire sky for her. He gently knelt down and took the unconscious Si Xiaonan into his arms. His eyes, covered with snowflakes, slowly closed. As his breath dissipated, a gentle whisper reached Si Xiaonan's ears. "Little South. Go home for me. Human circle. Can't find the two of them, what should we do next?" The knight led the members of Shangxie society to search around Stone City, but they couldn't find any trace of Si Xiaonan and Leng Xian. Perhaps they had something to do and left on their own, and Qingyu pondered. However, given Si Xiaonan's condition, she should be. He didn't finish the second half of his sentence. After all, with two ghost god essences in her body, plus Loki's soul binding after death, no matter how you looked at it, Si Xiaonan couldn't have survived. Everyone remained silent for a long time, their expressions heavy. "Now is not the time to mourn. We still have unfinished tasks," a special envoy calmly spoke up. "Loki is dead, the barrier between the human circle and Asgard should also be broken. We can go up directly now. Right, Jinyan and Qi Yi are still in Asgard. It must be chaotic there now." Chao Yuan immediately nodded. "Let's hurry." Everyone set off at once, heading straight for the passage between the human circle and Asgard. After running for a short while, Bailey Pang Pang, who was walking at the back, suddenly slipped. An ancient stone brick that had existed for who knows how long suddenly cracked with several fine fissures. These cracks intertwined with each other. At first glance they seemed meaningless, as if they were simply crushed by being stepped on. But upon closer inspection, one would notice a rhythm that was different from others. Bailey Pong Pong's peripheral vision caught what was under his foot, and his gaze suddenly focused. Immortality pill? He stood frozen in place, murmuring to himself. All the immortality items have emerged. Could it be that the great calamity is finally coming after all? Bailey Pang Pang stood there like a statue. After a long time he let out a long sigh. His expression seemed somewhat helpless. "Pang Pang." Chao Yuan, seeing that Bailey Pang Pang hadn't moved, called out. Bailey Pang Pang took one last look at the pattern of broken stones, then crushed it to powder with his foot, scattering it in the air with the yellow sand. "Coming," he responded, hurrying forward to catch up. Mist. An unnamed snowy mountain. In the deathly silent and pale white world, Si Xiaonan's eyelashes trembled slightly, shaking off flakes of snow. Her eyes slowly opened. Deep in her pupils was profound confusion. Si Xiaonan stared blankly at the familiar world before her, seemingly puzzled about why she could still wake up. Just then, from the corner of her eye, she saw the corpse beside her, already wrapped in ice and snow. Her pupils suddenly contracted. She stood stunned for a moment, then as if gone mad she abruptly got up from the ground and stumbled to his side. "Leng Xian! Leng Xian!" Si Xiaonan held his body, shaking it continuously. The bone-chilling cold transmitted from her fingertips. His corpse was already as rigid as ice. Her face turned pale as she kept calling Leng Xian's name. "Immortality pill! Immortality pill!" Si Xiaonan stared blankly at the scene before her, quickly understanding what had happened. She turned to see several revival pills on the ground that had been frozen into ice chips, and was struck as if by lightning. What Leng Xian had taken was never the immortality pill, but the revival pills he had obtained from the god of Forge. He had given the immortality pill to her. No. I won't let you die, I won't let you die. Si Xiaonan held Leng Xian's corpse, muttering like someone possessed. She let out a roar and surging divine power erupted, causing all the snow at the mountain peak to splash in all directions. Countless black threads extended from her body, interweaving into numerous tricks, radiating mysterious light. One trick after another dissipated. Si Xiaonan's bloodshot eyes stared fixedly at Leng Xian in her arms, but no matter how she activated the tricks, Leng Xian's body showed no signs of recovery. Tricks can deceive brief history, but they are not omnipotent. Even Loki at his peak could only rewrite history from about 40 seconds ago, and Leng Xian's death had occurred much earlier than that. Countless tricks appeared and vanished around Si Xiaonan. Her fists clenched tightly and with a furious roar she slammed them heavily onto the ground. Bang! Snow flew everywhere as the mountain suddenly collapsed. The rolling avalanche buried the land below, thunderous sounds echoing between the valleys. Si Xiaonan knelt in the void holding Leng Xian, her hot tears dripping onto the frost-covered corpse creating ripples. God of mischief, immortality, what use are these to me? Si Xiaonan, like a child who had lost everything, cried and roared heartbreakingly amidst the flying snow. When the flying snowflakes gradually returned to the valley and the world once again fell into deadly silence, Si Xiaonan slowly pressed her forehead against Leng Xian's chest. Choking with sobs she murmured, I don't want to go home alone. The cold wind wailed, the mist drifted. In the devastated mountain valley, Si Xiaonan held Leng Xian's corpse and cried for a long time before slowly standing up. She wiped away the frozen tears on her cheeks, bit her lip, and searched around Leng Xian's waist for a moment before taking out a metal box the size of a cigarette case. Leng Xian, please bear with being in here for a while. I need to do something and then I'll take you home, she said gently to the pale-faced Leng Xian. She opened the mobile arsenal, about to put Leng Xian's body inside, but her movement paused. After hesitating for a moment, she took off the blood-stained black coat that Leng Xian had been wearing and put it on herself. Watch Leng Xian, Si Xiaonan rubbed the collar of the coat murmuring, I will make Asgard pay the price. Si Xiaonan's fingertips swept across the metal box, a faint light flashed, and Leng Xian's body was collected inside. She carefully placed the mobile arsenal in her bosom, slowly turned her head, and looked toward a certain direction in the mist. Her eyes narrowed slightly and in her cold gaze flickered a murderous intent. The blood-stained black coat danced wildly in the wind. Si Xiaonan took a step into the air, countless black threads intertwined, and her figure instantly disappeared into the blowing snow. Asgard. Red brick maze. The law of trickery has disappeared? Between the tall red brick walls, Heimdall suddenly looked up at the sky, his face filled with shock. Loki is dead? No, even if he died, the law of trickery should have returned to Asgard. There shouldn't be a second deity in this world who can harness this law. Just as Heimdall was puzzled, the walls on both sides twisted again. The straight, wide path before him instantly transformed into 3 roads extending in different directions. The end of each path was pitch black, like the unrendered boundary of a game map. Without moving forward, he had no idea what awaited him. What kind of place is this? Heimdall stood at the intersection, cursing angrily as he raised the Bifrost sword. The next moment, brilliant divine power bloomed from the blade as he violently slashed at the red brick wall beside him. Boom! With a tremendous sound, the brick wall shattered, but in the next moment, countless pale green characters floated out from nothingness, instantly restoring it to its original state. All maze walls are indestructible. This was the initial code written when designing this game. Until his mental energy was exhausted, this red brick maze had to operate according to the rules he specified. Heimdall, refusing to accept this, raised the Bifrost sword and struck the brick wall 2 more times. Thunderous explosions rang out consecutively, but when the dust settled, the red brick wall remained completely intact. Just a human. I want to see how long you can last. As Heimdall raised the Bifrost sword to continue, the void before him flickered, and a figure appeared in front of him. Yuzuriha Hakugen's white hair naturally fell to his ankles. He rested one hand on Divine Calamity, at his waist, his cross-star-like eyes calmly observing Heimdall. In his vision, a conspicuous line of text floated above Heimdall's head. World-class bosses everywhere. This hell-level map is so difficult, Yuzuriha Hakujin sighed. Heimdall looked down at this human who was half his height. Even though Yuzuriha Hakujin was quite tall, he still looked as fragile as a child before the giant like Heimdall. Human, Heimdall sneered. How presumptuous. He gripped the Bifrost sword and slashed through the air. A surging golden rainbow light rushed toward Yuzuriha Hakujin's face like a tsunami. This Bifrost sword was not only the key to opening Asgard's Rainbow Bridge but also a powerful divine artifact ranking at the peak of the main god level. A single slash could be unbearable even for a main god. Feeling the overwhelming pressure coming at him, Yuzuriha Hakujin didn't panic. He simply stood in place, his white robe fluttering in the wind. Sister, I leave it to you, Yuzuriha Hakujin murmured, and the black gold long blade at his waist was drawn in an instant. Clang. With a light ring, a flash of black gold blade light instantly cut through the air, slicing through the golden sword light surging between the red brick walls. Vaguely, one could see a young woman wearing a black kimono with cherry blossoms, flashing from the mirror-like black gold blade, directly rushing toward Heimdall's face. Seeing this, Heimdall's pupils contracted slightly. He didn't arrogantly try to shatter this blade light with his massive body but quickly raised the Bifrost sword to clash with it. Black gold and brilliant gold tumbled between the tall red bricks on both sides. The former was like a greedy beast, gradually tearing apart the golden light between the walls. You can dispel the power of laws? What kind of blade is that? Heimdall exclaimed in surprise as he sensed his law power gradually receding in this blade light. The Magutsui blade. Divine calamity. Yuzuriha Hakujin spoke calmly. The next moment his figure crashed into the red brick wall beside him, strangely penetrating it and disappearing without a trace. When he reappeared, another blade light flashed from the red brick wall behind Heimdall, slashing directly at his neck. Even if you have a supreme-level divine artifact, so what? Heimdall seemed truly angered. Under the surging divine power, his form rapidly grew, gradually transforming into a mountain-like giant. A terrifying pressure suddenly descended. I accept losing to your great Xia's supreme beings. But you, a mere human, dare to insult me? But as his body grew larger, the walls on both sides also continued to rise. The distance between the walls kept expanding as if no matter how large he became, the maze would correspondingly widen, trapping him firmly within. Who said I'm alone? Yuzuriha Hakujin smiled. Isn't it normal to form a team when fighting a world-class boss? With a wave of Yuzuriha Hakujin's hand, the towering red walls on both sides automatically opened two paths, connecting with two other paths within the maze. A carriage with echoing bells and an elderly figure wearing a gray cloak rushed in from the ends of the two paths. The mind realm opened, time slowed, divine calamity, slashed repeatedly. The siege by three human powerhouses forced Heimdall to retreat again and again. The most troublesome was that each swing of Yuzuriha Hakujin's divine calamity would dispel part of his law. In just a few minutes his realm had already dropped significantly. Facing the attack from three powerhouses he almost had no ability to fight back. That's about enough. Master Chen's carriage glided like a ghost over Heimdall's head. He looked down at the blood-covered Heimdall and calmly said, "Send him on his way." Yuzuriha Hakujin nodded. Heimdall stood in a pool of blood, barely supporting himself with the Bifrost sword, breathing heavily. He stared intently at Yuzuriha Hakujin approaching with his blade and said in a deep voice, "Without laws you cannot kill me." "I know," Yuzuriha Hakujin smiled. "Don't worry, the one who will kill you isn't us." With a lift of Yuzuriha Hakujin's fingertip, a faint light flashed on the surface of Guan's brooch. The next moment Heimdall felt his vision blur as countless walls flashed past him, finally teleporting him to an unfamiliar red brick road. He glanced around and his expression immediately turned grim. Behind him stood a beautiful woman wearing a golden-purple divine robe, standing atop a high pile of corpses, coldly looking down at him. Before Heimdall could act, the Queen Mother of the West raised her fingertip and pointed at him through the air. A green light instantly pierced through the severely wounded Heimdall's forehead. Heimdall's eyes were filled with shock and unwillingness. He stared fixedly at the Queen Mother of the West and at her feet, those familiar Norse gods. His eyes gradually became unfocused. With a dull thud, he fell at the Queen Mother's feet, becoming part of the edge of the corpse mountain. The red brick maze divided the battlefield and, by constantly changing, created isolated Norse gods. Human powerhouses joined forces to wear down the enemy's strength. Then Yuzuriha Hakugen would teleport them to the Queen Mother of the West for the fatal blow. As for Sun Wukong, Yang Jian and Zhou Ping, they didn't need to coordinate tactics with each other. Any one of them alone was enough to kill through a maze path. In this kind of tactic, the number of Nordic gods pouring into the maze quickly decreased. The Queen Mother of the West narrowed her eyes slightly, curled her fingertips, and the holy rainbow sword that was stuck in the ground automatically fell into her hand. The foundation of this maze's existence was Guanzai's spiritual power. Even though he was currently the strongest ceiling-level expert, he couldn't maintain the maze's existence for long. However, now that they had seized the holy rainbow sword that could open the rainbow bridge to leave Asgard, the people of Great Xia had a way to retreat. They could advance or defend as needed. Everything was proceeding perfectly according to Left Qing's plan. Outside the red brick maze, Lin Jie stood beside Guanzai, overlooking the panorama inside the maze with a complicated expression. What? Feeling it's a bit cruel? Guanzai tapped the brim of his baseball cap with his fingertip, revealing half of his face, speaking half-jokingly. How could that be? Lin Jie shook his head. They are Nordic gods with different standpoints. Even if we don't kill them, one day they will attack Great Xia. Moreover, over so many years they have made plenty of moves against Great Xia. Even if some of them are benevolent gods who just want to protect their homeland on the battlefield, there's no time to distinguish one by one, and we can't show misplaced compassion. Just like in a war between two countries, bullets don't avoid good people. Standpoint is standpoint, it has nothing to do with good or evil. I'm just worried about a friend who is still locked in the Abyss prison. I don't know how she's doing now. Guanzai raised an eyebrow. If that's the case, you'd better go rescue her while we can still hold off these Nordic gods. The Queen Mother has already obtained the holy rainbow sword. When the maze's duration ends and the Nordic gods swarm in, we may have no choice but to retreat. Holy rainbow sword? What's that? Lin Jie asked in confusion. Guanzai. The duration of Star Coin had ended, and the holy rainbow sword that Lin Jie had materialized from memory disappeared along with it. Correspondingly, he also forgot about the holy rainbow sword itself. Never mind. I'll go rescue her first. Lin Jie shook his head, his form flickered, and he transformed into an ordinary-looking Westerner, returning to the streets of Asgard and sprinting toward the Abyss prison. Miles' identity had been exposed, and Lin Jie couldn't possibly ride the somersault cloud openly through Asgard to rescue someone from prison. After all, although most Nordic gods had been drawn to the red brick maze, there were still some gods scattered around observing from the shadows. So he could only randomly choose an appearance and approach the prison from his memory. By the way, where's number 22? Lin Jie looked toward the Rainbow Bridge but didn't see number 22's figure. After he opened the Rainbow Bridge, many ceiling-level experts from Great Xia came to help. The battle between gods became chaotic, and number 22 had disappeared without a trace. He was either casually killed by some Nordic god or had secretly slipped across the Rainbow Bridge back to the real world. Based on Lin Jie's understanding of number 22, it was likely the latter. But now was not the time to worry about the life or death of an agent. No one knew what changes might have occurred in the prison during Asgard's chaos. Most importantly, was the wolf Fenrir still guarding his post? Lin Jie summoned Mu Mu to take a look. After the battle at the Rainbow Bridge, the sacrifices in the Holy Grail had been almost completely consumed, with only a shallow layer of wine floating at the bottom. He wasn't sure if it would be enough to support him until he rescued Jin Yan. Unfortunately, even though so many gods had died in the red brick maze, the wine in the Holy Grail had not increased. It seemed that only creatures killed by the Master of the Holy Grail could become sacrifices and merge into the cup. As Lin Jie continued to advance, a tremendous rumbling sound suddenly erupted from the direction of the Abyss prison. A powerful pillar of murderous fire energy shot straight into the sky. Lin Jie was startled, then his eyes gradually brightened. Is it them? 5 minutes earlier, more than 10 figures moved like ghosts through the streets. Under the cover of the deafening explosions from the Rainbow Bridge, they silently arrived near the Abyss prison. Is it here? Knight looked at the heavily guarded prison entrance in the distance and asked in a deep voice. Yes. And Qingyu's gray eyes emitted a faint pressure. There's no mistake, she's down there. Good. Knight took a deep breath, his gaze falling on the Nordic War Department members still stationed at the entrance, his eyes flickering with unprecedented fighting spirit. Although a divine battle had erupted at the Rainbow Bridge, the Nordic War Department guarding the entrance had not been reassigned. On one hand, this was because the prison held many dangerous beings that absolutely could not be compromised. On the other hand, these ordinary War Department members had not reached the divine realm, and participating in the divine battle would only lead to certain death. The few Nordic War Department leaders who had entered the divine realm were already trapped in the red brick maze. All Shangxia Association members, listen to my command. Knight lowered his voice, his eyes full of determination. Rescue the president at all costs. The Abyss Prison's location was special. To break into the deepest part and rescue Jin Yan, the Shangxia Association members could only use brute force. Fortunately, those participating in this operation were mostly top fighters of the Shangxia Association. Without the Nordic gods' intervention, they had a chance of winning in a direct confrontation. The Shangxia Association members nodded firmly. At Knight's command, they simultaneously shot forward like arrows toward the prison entrance. The Nordic War Department members guarding the prison had their attention mostly on the divine battle at the Rainbow Bridge. Who could have imagined that at such a time, an unknown enemy force would suddenly appear in Asgard? This sudden attack momentarily threw them into confusion, but they were well-trained War Department members after all. They quickly stabilized their formation and engaged the Shangxia Association members in battle. The four envoys had been injured in their battle with Loki, but they now fought at the forefront of the Shangxia Association as if injected with adrenaline. The four masks forcefully tore open a gaping hole in the Nordic War Department's formation, continuously pressing toward the prison entrance. Should we help? Nearby, Chao Yuan watched the chaotic battlefield and turned to ask Qingyu. They were not members of the Shangxia Association, so Knight had not actively asked for their help before attacking the prison. After all, fundamentally, Jin Yan was the president of the Shangxia Association. Whether to help or not depended on how Qingyu, the deputy team leader, would decide. Qingyu pondered for a moment, then nodded. Let's help. 7 Knights should have already joined up with the great Xia gods and is out of danger, so he doesn't need our rescue. Rather, here if we stand by and do nothing and this drags on too long, I'm afraid the situation at the Rainbow Bridge might change. Bailey Pang Pang stretched his shoulders and chuckled. Understood. With a crisp sound of a sword being drawn, a surging pillar of killing energy shot into the sky. Madman Chao Yuan, wrapped in a cloak of pitch-black killing energy, dragged his sword with one hand. His crimson eyes revealed surging murderous intent, like a fearless madman, grinning ferociously as he charged straight into the weakest position of the battle formation. Already at the Klein realm, after releasing the Black King's killing energy, Chao Yuan's aura fluctuations reached the peak of Klein. Surging blade rays of killing energy slashed frantically in all directions, easily carving a bloody path through this area. Universal disarmament. Bai Li Pangpang followed unhurriedly behind Chao Yuan. With a grasp of his right hand in the air, black and white energies appeared beneath his feet, swirling into a massive yin-yang taiji diagram, with invisible power spreading outward. The next moment, the long swords and shields in the hands of these Northern European battle members simultaneously trembled and flew upward uncontrollably, forming a protective barrier around that chubby figure like a massive, solid shield wall, dividing the surrounding battlefield. Next, Bai Li Pangpang formed a complex hand seal in front of his chest and softly chanted, Sun Wind, Li Fire, 8 Wilderness Blazing. As his words fell, the 8 trigram symbols lit up one after another around the black and white taiji diagram beneath his feet. 2 of the trigram symbols vanished into nothingness, and moments later, a hurricane carrying raging fire exploded outward with him at the center. Countless confiscated Western-style long swords, wrapped in this terrifying firestorm, shattered into a rain of fire at the point of Bai Li Pangpang's finger, pouring down like a deluge toward the Northern European battle members ahead. Meanwhile, Qingyu, carrying a black coffin on his back, had somehow already circled to the rear of the Northern European battle formation, walking among the crowd like a ghost. In those gray eyes, 2 strange purple lights faintly appeared. Any Northern European battle member who made eye contact with him stood motionless in place, as if their souls had been taken away. And Qingyu, in his blood-stained white robe, walked out from among dozens of statue-like figures, lowered his head slightly and pushed up his glasses. The lenses reflected two pale cold lights, and in the next moment, those soul-lost dazed battle members suddenly went mad, placing their hands together in front of them and forcefully smashing them against their foreheads. Bang bang bang. A series of muffled explosions rang out as those figures bizarrely smashed their own skulls with their hands, falling limply to the ground, crimson blood spreading out. The ghost Jiang Er, in a white dress, floated out of the black coffin, passing through the Northern European battle blockade as if intangible, through the heavy dungeon door and disappeared without a trace. A few seconds later, a low creaking sound arose as the heavy dungeon door slowly opened from the inside, revealing a dark passage leading to the depths of the dungeon. Behind the dungeon door, a Northern European battle member possessed by Jiang Er threw the bunch of keys in his hand with force, landing precisely in Qinyu's hand. Most cells in the dungeon had divine power seals which they couldn't possibly break by brute force, but with these keys they could open most of the cell doors in the dungeon. Well done, Jiang Er, and Qingyu smiled slightly. The intervention of the Nightfall team continuously tipped the scales of victory toward the Upper Evil Association. The Northern European battle formation guarding the entrance gradually collapsed, forcing them to retreat toward the entrance. Just then, a figure suddenly emerged from nothingness, standing in midair above the Northern European battle members. As the magical light on his body gradually faded, a figure holding a knife in his left hand and a sword in his right looked down at the many Northern European battle members below. His eyes focused and two torch-like golden lights suddenly burst forth. Tyrant's rage. Unprecedented fear suddenly surged in the hearts of all Northern European battle members below. They felt a weight on their shoulders as if an invisible hand was pressing down on their bodies, forcing them to kneel bit by bit. They struggled to look up, trying to see clearly the figure above them, but the wild kingly pressure firmly controlled their bodies. Only a cold, majestic gaze seemed to penetrate their skulls, looking down upon their souls. As the Northern European battle members were frozen and trapped, a touch of night color climbed up the white blade. The figure in midair, like a graceful wild goose, landed in the center of the crowd. His foot slipped. Lin Chia was startled, losing his balance and nearly falling to the ground, but he managed to slap the ground with his other palm, his body soaring into the air, his left hands, white sweeping out. The next moment, a blade light that ignored distance swept out like a full moon, and dozens of heads were simultaneously thrown up. Chia? Seeing that figure by Li Pangpang and the other's eyes lit up simultaneously. Lin Chia wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. This damned star coin, after effect, almost made a big fool of himself. Lin Chia's entry became the last straw that broke the Northern European battle formation. The entrance to the Abyss dungeon was completely lost, and the Upper Evil Association members rushed frantically through the door, killing their way to the bottom level of the dungeon. Lin Chia's gaze swept over everyone, finally stopping on Qingyu, asking in surprise, "Qingyu, your realm? I dissected quite a few mysteries, so I progressed a bit faster," and Qingyu smiled somewhat shyly. "This is more than just a bit faster, your realm has already surpassed mine." Lin Chia looked at Qingyu as if looking at a monster. Qingyu scratched his head, a bit embarrassed. "Chia, how's the situation at the Rainbow Bridge?" Chao Yuan asked curiously. 3 main gods came from Great Xia, almost all the top powers came. Oh, and Sword Saint is here too. Sword Saint. Hearing this name, the Nightfall team members' eyes lit up. Yes, it's been almost 3 years since we last met, and he's even more powerful than before. Lin Chia smiled. You'll see later. Now let's go rescue people first. I know Jin Yan's exact detention location, but the big guy down there is a bit tricky. Deep in the dungeon. As the Upper Evil Association members fought their way through, the Northern European battle members guarding the interior of the dungeon were defeated one after another. In this process, the Upper Evil Association's casualties were also terrifying. Of the nearly 20 top combatants originally, only 11 or 12 remained and all were injured. Even so, they didn't hesitate at all, advancing like a sharp sword in one breath toward the bottom-level dungeon where Jin Yan was imprisoned. Just as they were about to reach the bottom level of the dungeon, a deafening wolf howl came from a stone platform not far away. A black giant shadow as large as a small mountain slowly stood up from the darkness. The Abyss Guardian, the magic wolf Fenrir.